Sterling Heights Public Library. I'm Brent, and today we are going to be talking about how to do a very simple tomato sauce with pasta. So if you come on down to the board, and I'll show you what we're going to be playing around with today, and just talk about this for just a moment. So first thing we're going to start off with is some ripe tomatoes. Ripe is important on these. Now you're going to see that I've got two different varieties here. For a sauce, probably your best bet is to find yourself something that's like a Roma. These work really well for this. Some of your rounder tomatoes do also work for this very well too, but a lot of these type, or a lot of your slicing tomatoes, have a lot of water in them. They're very juicy, and that leads to a much thinner sauce. If you're looking for a thicker sauce with a little more intensity, lean towards your Romas or those type of tomatoes. We are going to use a little garlic today. We've got some onion, some fresh basil, we got some olive oil, we're going to use a little salt, got a box of pasta here, and cheese and red pepper are completely optional, but they're pretty good that way. So I'm going to do some of the prep work off camera here, and then we'll come back and show you how to do some of this. Okay, so we've done a little bit of chopping and got our prep ingredients together, so now we're going to talk about how to put this together. Now you're going to notice I got two pans here. I got a nice big skillet here, and I've also got a pot with some hot boiling water in it that we're going to do the pasta in. Now when you're doing pasta, you want to make sure that it's at a good boil before you throw it in there, that you got enough water, and that you definitely make sure to put some salt in there. Look at the directions on the package. That's going to help you a lot. So while we're getting ready with this, I'm going to go ahead and toss this in. Got about half a box of pasta here, and I'm just throwing that in right now because it's going to take a few minutes, and we're going to get the rest of this going in the meantime. So do not put the lid back on that because you don't want it boiling all over the place. So in this skillet here, I'm going to turn this to about a medium heat. Okay, so we've taken a second here and we got the pan starting to warm up. We got our pasta in. I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of oil. And yes, you're right, I didn't measure it, but I've been doing this a while. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to throw in our onion. So I've got a kind of a medium fine dice on this. I'm going to toss that in there. At the same time, we're going to take our garlic. We've got about 3-4 cloves in there. It works out to about a tablespoon of chopped garlic. Throw that in there, and we're going to saute that together with the onion. And as that's coming together, I am going to add a little bit of salt to it just to kind of help draw a little of the moisture out of it. We're going to adjust our seasoning again towards the end here, but when you're doing onions and garlic, a little bit of salt doesn't hurt. Okay, so I'm not looking for any color on these onions today. I'm just kind of going to soften them up a little bit, what they call sweating them. You just kind of bring a little bit of the moisture out of them and start to get them until they start to get a little bit translucent and soften up a little bit. Once we get to that point, I'm going to add the tomatoes. You're going to be astonished how fast and how easy this is. You tell somebody, oh, I made scratch tomato sauce with fresh tomatoes. It sounds really impressive. It's really easy. So, just about there. I'm not going to cook these tomatoes for a real long time, so the onion, once it gets to the right point, isn't going to get a lot of extra cook time, so don't skimp on that, or you'll wind up with crunchy. So the tomatoes here, I went ahead and cored them and chopped them. I didn't bother to peel them or seed them. You certainly can do that if you don't like the seeds or the skins. This particular sauce, it's it's not really important to do that. But if you do decide you want to get the skins off of a tomato, there's actually a couple of really easy ways to do that involve heat. One way, you can cut them in half, put them face down on a baking sheet, sprinkle them with a little bit of oil, and put them in your oven at about 350 for 15-20 minutes until they start to blister on the outside. Pull them out, and as they cool, you definitely want to wait till they cool a little bit, the skins just slip right off. You can also get a pot of boiling water going and slip ripe tomatoes into that for maybe 10 to 30 seconds until the skins split. Slide right off. It's a little bit of extra work if you're only doing a few tomatoes, but it works out very well if you're doing a bunch. Okay, so once you've got the tomatoes in here, you can turn the heat up a little bit. We don't want to cook this to death. This is not a long, slow, all-day kind of sauce. It's really meant to be, quick and very fresh. But the reason to do it in a skillet is because you got a lot of surface area here, and you can actually get some of the moisture out of the tomatoes a lot quicker. You can do this in a saucepan. You don't have to use fresh tomatoes. You don't have to use fresh basil. You can use canned tomatoes in a saucepan, and dried basil works out great. It will taste a little different than the fresh version though. So we're going to just kind of give this a little bit of a stir here. And you can see how much moisture is coming out of this. So we're going to cook that down a little bit. Okay, so sauce is still cooking along over here. Pasta is just about ready. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and knock off the timer on that. Turn off the heat. I'm going to go take this over to the sink and drain it, and I'll be right back. So our pasta is drained. We're just going to set it over here for a second. Sauce is coming along very nicely. We are almost where we want to be. Again, this is not a long cooked sauce, so we're not going to worry about getting all the moisture out of this. Set that there for a second. I'm going to go ahead and throw the basil in. I got a pretty fair handful of basil here. For you basil lovers out there, you're going to know that it's very difficult to overdo the basil. There's probably about 3 tablespoons of fresh basil here. Go ahead and stir that in. Go ahead and give this a quick taste. Just see how our seasoning's coming along. Okay, so I do want to add a little bit more salt to this. Started off with about a half a teaspoon, and that's probably another half right there. So one thing you can do to actually take a little bit of the sharpness out of this, because sometimes your tomatoes are going to need a little bit of softening. A little bit of sugar, not a lot, will actually do some very nice things to a fresh tomato sauce. It just kind of takes a little of the edge off of it. If you like that tomato edge, skip the sugar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this off the heat. We're going to plate it up and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. We've got the pasta and a few spoonfuls of the sauce over the top, and cheese is certainly optional, but I like it that way. A little red pepper, also entirely optional, but it's awful good that way. And maybe a grind or two of fresh black pepper. Serve this with a salad and a little crusty bread. Pretty nice, pretty easy. It also, this base tomato sauce, you can do a lot of things with this. This is not just pasta sauce. And the pasta you put it on, totally up to you. This is rotini, works really well for this. It's got lots of little ridges to hold on to the sauce. If you prefer spaghetti, go spaghetti. If you like ravioli, use ravioli. This is a good one. I think you'll like this. Give it a try.